Hello random person. I know this video is far from original, but I thought I could bring something new to the table on this subject. As someone who has both experienced and kept up with mascot suits of SpongeBob and the crew throughout the years, I thought it would be cool to add my own 2 cents and share what I know. Let's get started. The origin of the SpongeBob mascot is surrounded in mystery. Some sources say it's 2001 at Kings Island, but what I assume is the earliest image comes from an orange carpet with other Nicktoons such as Chucky from Rugrats. This SpongeBob looks very season 1 and looks super rough around the edges compared to what would come later. For instance, his sock color are reversed along with being shorter than usual, and his arms and legs are a different shade of yellow than his body. I also don't know how to feel about his hole texture. One thing I do think is noteworthy about the early SpongeBob suits is that they don't have much arm articulation.
I have no use of my arm, see?
But it can spin in a 360 motion if the mascot user so pleases. I wonder how the person sees out of it, because it doesn't have that see-through texture on his eyes later mascots have. Despite my critiques, I think it's a decent start. This one is like a transition between the first design and the one coming up. I like the improvement here, especially on the face. Plus, somehow the sponge texture looks appealing here. They fixed the socks and limb problems I mentioned earlier, and it's overall more appealing. I think I found out how the person sees through the previous one. It has that see-through material in its pupils, though I still feel bad because that's not a lot of vision. I also noticed these holes underneath the eye. My best guess is that it's for oxygen, but I could be wrong. Okay, here's the mascot most people have probably seen. I think this one came out around 2003 and 2004, and they really took the time to improve upon this design. For instance, they revised the visibility from only the pupils to the whites in his eyes, and his overall design is a healthy balance between cartoony and realistic. Keep in mind, this was way before Sponge Out of Water, so they didn't have a set-in-stone 3D rendition of SpongeBob, though even now, 3D SpongeBob was never set in stone to begin with. The only real downside is the mouth being pitch black, and sometimes the pants to shirt ratio can be off. Fun bit of trivia about this costume, when I saw it at the Nick Hotel, the head felt squishy. And since the person's arms were inside of it, sometimes in stage shows the person would push the mouth to indicate speaking. Somebody did the same thing when I gave it a sip of my water as a kid. Since this one was mass produced, there are some other variants of this costume from what I assume are from different costume makers. Some look better than others. Around the time of this costume, we had 4 mascots of the main cast. For example, Patrick, who looks very season 1 despite having the Z eyebrows. For context, season 1 Pat has M eyebrows. But I can see why they did this for the mascot. It sounds much easier. Just like SpongeBob, he doesn't have much use of his arms, but he had more mobility than SpongeBob at the time. One thing I found interesting is that Patrick's feet are flat out cylinders, but you'll see how this progresses later on. Next up is Squidward Q Tentacle, who I legit have no complaints for. I think he was perfectly translated as a mascot suit. I mean, his legs look weird, but I get why they would go in this direction, since his legs move so unnaturally in the show, having his feet being in a circle while he's standing, but separating it in half while mimicking 2 legs. So I can see why they did this so they can have both. Lastly, we have Sandy, who I think got it the worst out of all of them. One thing of note is that she's based on this hula stock art, but the result of said mascot was mixed. For instance, this face looks very weird, especially the eyes. They look like they're going in 2 completely different directions. Something about the face rubs me the wrong way in general. Also, I wish she had her Tree Dome attire. I'm sure most people would go, wouldn't that be inappropriate for kids? She has her undies out!
I'm only wearing my undies.
I thought of that, and I say if they either color those purple, like some of the books do, and save a bikini bottom, or make the skirt longer, I think it would be fine. Also, the fabric on the body looks a little amateurish, to be honest. You can see where the suit finishes and ends at certain points, such as the hands and feet. I hope one of these days we can get an updated Sandy. Okay, I know we have one, but we'll get to that later. Around this time, Plankton was represented in 2 different ways. One is a hand puppet, while for the stage show Krabby Patty celebration at the Nick Hotel, Plankton was a hand puppet hidden by Coral. But when they re-released the show overseas, he was back to being a hand puppet with an actor attached. In the stage show Stories from Bikini Bottom in Singapore, Gary and Snelly even had puppets, which as a kid, I tried to recreate. So here's footage of that. This was based on that one show that I talked about in the video. Looking back, I definitely got the shell wrong. The swirl shouldn't be going that way, but this way instead. But oh well. The eyes were originally going to be floppy, like in the show, but it was like too floppy, so we like stitched them on like this. I've had this for 15 years, so it's definitely showing its age. Here's the puppet mechanism. I was like 11 years old when I made this, so it's a little tricky to fit into the arm, but surprisingly, it does fit. It's very floppy, unfortunately. I wish I had the resources to remake this. But let's get back to the video.
You're old.
Also, for most stage shows, Patchy the Pirate is the one hosting them to interact with the viewers, since mascots don't talk. He looks pretty much identical to the original, even if he's never played by Tom Kenny for these. Let's take a quick detour to another set of SpongeBob costumes, from The Sponge You Could Fly, a new musical, which was a stage show from May 31st, 2007 to November 11th, 2012. At first, the costumes showed the actors' faces, and I won't lie, it looks pretty bad. SpongeBob characters just do not work with this style of costume. Especially Spleefbra. However, when they toured in Spain, SpongeBob was upgraded to a mascot costume with an animatronic mouth and eyes, though some shows had a more static costume. The actors' faces were given makeup, which somehow looks even worse. However, when it toured in Mexico, I believe in 2012, everyone was turned into mascot costumes other than the background fish. Sploo got a slight downgrade, but overall, this was a huge upgrade from before, even if it still looks uncanny. Just like most shows, Gary and Plankton were represented by puppets. But this was the first ever show to feature the Flying Dutchman, who was represented by this cool stick puppet. Oh, and fun fact, some showings of the musical near the end of its run actually used the official mascot for Patrick from the theme parks. The last thing a note I'll add, SpongeBob's inflatable pants in every costume variant looks like testicles. For a while, SpongeBob, Patrick, Squidward, and Sandy were the only characters represented, until December 20th, 2011, where SeaWorld Australia was introduced to SpongeBob Parade Pants, where we got introduced to 3 brand new characters, Pearl, Mrs. Puff, and Mr. Krabs, who I'm surprised wasn't here since the beginning. Mr. Krabs honestly looks pretty solid. I don't know why they made him so angry looking, but I prefer that over the bean mouth that's on everything. For some reason, he doesn't have his white undershirt, but I think that's just because the stock art often excluding it, which is why a lot of plushies don't have it. Also, he does have a tongue. It's just very, very dark. But I have seen videos where it showed close-ups of it. I just wish I could find them. Mrs. Puff was really well adapted too. I just wish she was more Mr. Krabs' size since she looks so much smaller than everyone else. Last up, we have Pearl, which I feel the most bad for to the person wearing it. She looks very bizarre, but I think that's an issue with Pearl as a character and not the costume itself. And to all the people asking, where does the actor see out of? Her tongue. That's why it extrudes a little. Not only did we get new costumes for these characters, but SpongeBob and Patrick got a glow up too. In Parade Pants, SpongeBob is much shorter, thinner, and can actually use his arms unlike previous costumes. His face does look a little off in Parade Pants, but this was fixed after this. I think he looks great. Plus, since he has more use of his arms, he can be more expressive. Also, him being shorter fits much better with the rest of the cast. A couple of years later, he was given a slight tweak to his design, with more connected eyes and a smaller mouth. I honestly don't know which one I like more, to be honest. I think they both look great. Patrick also got a glow up. His face is much higher up, and his feet are rounded off like Mr. Krabs, which I think looks better than the cylinders. He doesn't have use of his arms still, but for Patrick, it makes sense. Squidward might have a slight glow up where he's brighter. I can't tell if this is the case or if it's just lighting, but whatever it is, it's pretty much identical to the original. Every now and again, they would have background fish as backup dancers, with only one of them being from the show. You know, the guy who got his license from the episode boating school.
Hey, I just got my license!
Hey, I'm getting mine next.
Hey, I doubt it!
Remember when I said Patchy usually hosts stage events? Well, for the show I Heart Dancing, based on the episode of the same name, Perch Perkins hosted instead. And for some reason, they the sponge who flied him, and it looks terrible. They also brought in Mr. Long Tan and Handsome with his army of anchovies, with very obvious neck holes.
Meep.
Let's take another detour to discuss the SpongeBob musical. No, not that musical. This musical. Unlike the first musical that tried perfectly emulating the style of the show, this one took a more abstract approach that captures the essence of the characters, such as SpongeBob's yellow shirt, Squidward's 4 legs, Mr. Krabs' boxing gloves to represent big movie claws, Sandy's afro representing her helmet, Plankton having a beanie baby to represent his size, plus all the background fish being unique types of creatures such as mermaids and weird cone things. Also, here is a skateboard. If you haven't seen it already, please watch the SpongeBob musical. Even if you're not into musicals, I'm pretty sure most SpongeBob fans would really get a kick out of this. For the SpongeBob movie, Sponge Out of Water, they made a costume for the Invincibubble, which looks very movie accurate even if he doesn't have a lot of arm mobility due to his size. I also love the detail on his eyes. For the SpongeBob movie, Sponge on the Run, we have mascots for the Camp Coral versions of SpongeBob and Patrick. They kinda stare into my soul, but I think they did a decent job. I especially love the glossy eyes. There's little to no footage of these costumes, and the only footage we have of it in action is thanks to an Alan Sue song. Search for SquarePants also received costumes too. Imagine what they could do for that. Will we get a cool Flying Dutchman mascot? Sadly no. Instead, we got D-Mix of SpongeBob and Patrick. Not gonna lie, I think this is the worst they have ever looked. SpongeBob has a blank vacant stare, Patrick's proportions are just off. Also, SpongeBob has no use of his arms again, but somehow it's more obvious that they're sticks than the first version. For some reason, it has 5 belt loops on the back. For context, he has 3, so I don't know why they would have added 2 more. I do like their pirate variants more, but honestly, I would have preferred if they just took the mascots they're using now and just dressed them up. Speaking of, here are some outfit variants of these mascots. Christmas, Tuxedo Bob, Summer SpongeBob, Summer Patrick, Summer Squidward, Summer Mr. Krabs, America Mrs. Puff, Pajama SpongeBob and Patrick, Pajama SpongeBob, but more accurate to the show, Jester SpongeBob and Patrick, Halloween SpongeBob and Patrick, Camper SpongeBob, Ghost SpongeBob, Easter SpongeBob, Tuxedo Bob 2.0, and lastly, Spacesuit Sandy, who is the newest addition to the mascot lineup. For the Universal Kids Resort in Texas, they updated the Sandy mascot to feature her iconic suit. I will say, it would make more sense for Sandy to be in her Tweedledum attire since she's on the surface, but then again, SpongeBob doesn't wear a water helmet, so I get why they did it. I think it's a vast improvement, even if she still looks kinda dead-eyed. Though, I wish they didn't include her helmet. I get why it's only half of it so it doesn't suffocate the wearer, but I just would have preferred no dome, to be honest. And that was my deep dive into just about every SpongeBob mascot costume. It was a very interesting journey with ups and downs. Which costume was your favorite? Which one was your least favorite? Are there any that you've met in person? Comment below, let's start a discussion. And with all that said, stay random.